Welcome to Marion City Schools, Channel 18. Hi, I'm Ian Soul. I'm here with Mayor Scott Schertzer, and please explain to us what this show is about.
Well, thank you, Ian. I appreciate it. First of all, I want to thank the Marion Telecom department here at Marion Harding High School and John Mullins and all the students, especially Ian. You're the first, I guess, you're not the co-host, you're the host
right, yes.
today. So we may have other hosts in the future. I guess this idea came up, we wanted to bring up public information and current events and bring it to Channel 18. About 13 years ago, I think it was, we started broadcasting the City Council meetings on Channel 18. Former President Keith Koheiser of City Council came up with the concept, thought it was a great idea to put all our council meetings on the television, and just from that, this idea has grown, and here we are in our inaugural show for Marion, and we'll be doing this monthly, and obviously you won't be here next year when we start this because you're a senior this year.
Right, yes. We'll have a different student every single month to host it.
Okay, sounds like a lot of fun. We're going to have questions from the host to myself, and we'll talk about some things that are happening in Marion, and we hope you tune in and enjoy the show. So let's get started, Ian.
All right. I just want to touch on passing the new legislation concerning solicitors within Marion City limits. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually this is introduced legislation to council just actually last night. We decided that we wanted to send this ordinance back to committee for further discussion. The city safety service director, or the safety director in this case, found some new information that will be helpful in crafting this ordinance and hopefully getting it passed through city council. Whenever the administration passes or asks something to go to City Council, it goes through a committee process, and then the committee, which is usually a 3-member City Council committee, will either vote in favor of it to pass it on to the full council, or it will kill it in committee. So this was passed on to council, but because of new information that the safety director found out, we asked that it be sent back to committee. And the idea behind this ordinance is really to protect our citizens. We have people that come in from all over the state and sometimes from out of the state, and they're door-to-door solicitors. And that means they're going to knock on your door and they're going to try and sell you something. And we want to make sure that we know who these people are that are doing door-to-door solicitation in our community. There's a lot of things going on in the world today, so the more information that we can have to safeguard our citizens, the better it's going to be. Now, this wouldn't impact, for example, if a Marion Baseball for Youth wanted to sell candy bars. So a lot of the not-for-profits and youth organizations in our community would be exempt from this ordinance. We certainly don't want to be burdensome on our own residents, but we also want to protect our citizens as well. We've recently had some folks come into town, and the process now is they have to stop at City Hall, they have to apply to the safety director, and then it's up to the safety director whether they give them a permit to solicit in our community. Now, a solicitation permit, Ian, does not mean that the city is endorsing the product being sold. Mm-hmm. It simply means that we are aware that they are in our community, because oftentimes we get calls to City Hall, the police department, and 911 if a solicitor is being, let's say, overly aggressive. And we have no idea about the background of these people, and we feel that it's better to have some background information on these folks that are trying to sell something in our community.
All right, thank you very much. Can you tell us about how the city is recalling the police officers back, and just tell us a little bit about that?
Sure thing. Back in January, the city set out a plan to recall our laid-off police officers. Thanks to the voters of this community who passed a increase in the municipal income tax of 0.25%, that will help bring back those laid-off police officers and allow us to hire new firefighters. I often explain to people that there were no firefighters laid off in this process of the downturn in the economy, but we did have to lay off some police officers, and that's because of the budgetary constraints that we were facing last year. Now we're calling those police officers back on duty. And in January, the administration laid out a plan. We said each quarter of this fiscal year, we would recall 2 police officers. So in late January and early February, we called back the 2 police officers that we had committed to do. We are in the second quarter of the fiscal year now. We've already called back one police officer, and I believe the second one was just called back last Sunday. So again, we're on track for that plan also. In the third quarter of this fiscal year, we'll call back 2 more police officers. We committed to 7 police officers being called back. That'll get us to 6 in the third quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, we'll call back the 7th officer. Now, I think we're going to be able to recall that 7th officer probably sooner rather than later. Things are looking pretty good for Marion right now, economically speaking. We just went through income tax. Things are looking up. We have mandatory file this year for the first time. We did the 50% tax credit, which is helpful, as well as having the increase in the municipal income tax. So I'm fairly confident at this stage of the game that we're going to be able to get back all 7 police officers sooner rather than have to wait till the fourth quarter to get that last one back.
Thank you. And then earlier you mentioned about the firefighters. How's the procedure going to be handled about the firefighters?
And the procedure is totally different in the fire department. Since we never laid anybody off, we're actually going to be hiring new firefighters in that particular department. And we gave an agility test and a written examination to people who were interested in being firefighters earlier this year, and we have just now gotten a list of the top 15 in those 2 tests. So the top 15 scores in those 2 tests have now been turned over to the fire chief and our human resource clerk, and they're in the process of doing interviews. So when you hire a new person into the service of the city versus a recall of a laid off personnel, there is a different process, and sometimes the new hire takes a little bit longer than the recall. But we expect that we're going to hire 3, possibly 4 firefighters before this year is over to start beefing up our safety forces once again here in our community.
Awesome. All right. And then about EMS, do they have to have any medical background to become an EMS?
You know, we like to look for a firefighter that has all the certifications and training and just be able to walk right into the job site. You know, we don't train our firefighters in that regard. We don't hire them and then send them off to the school to get their EMS card or their fire card. We want them to come already trained so they can step into the job in the city of Marion. And really, you see that a lot in today's job market. You have a lot of people out there who have various skills, and there's a wide pool for us to draw upon. And I believe a lot of the 15 that they are going to be interviewing already have the qualifications to step into the job.
All right, cool. Thank you. The Marion Star Building, what's going to become of it since it is being sold?
You know, I think this project could be very exciting for our community. You know, we have Ohio State Marion here, and we have Marion Technical College. And this community has long believed that we should have student housing on those 2 campuses. It looks like OSU has a long-term plan for student housing. But what do we do in the short term? So we have a private individual in our community who stepped up to the plate and said, you know what, I have an idea, and I think this idea can work. And that's why I, as mayor, am going to support this concept of student housing in our community. It's really a private partnership with Ohio State Marion to have off-campus student housing, which is specifically dedicated to the college students at OSUM and Marion Technical College. The Marion Star Building was recently purchased by a downtown developer, downtown business owner, and it's her concept to totally revamp that building and make it into a 25-unit housing for the college students. She believes that she can get 100 college students in that facility, and I understand that OSUM is constantly getting phone calls in their student affairs or student services department on asking about where am I going to send my kid to live if they come to Ohio State Marion. Now we will have the ability to say, look, we have a partnership with a local developer who has housing specifically for college students. I think it's a great concept for this community. I wish her all the luck in the world. The city is going to support her on this, and I think we could see college students living in downtown Marion within the next year and a half or so. I don't know the exact timetable on this student housing project. The project is actually called Starfish because it was the Marion Star, and Fish is related to the owner of the building now, last name of Fisher. So I think it's a great project. I'm excited to see it get off the ground and move forward.
Thank you. Where is the Marion Star moving to?
Well, the Marion Star is going to be moving into a building on the corner of Center and State Street, and we often refer to it as the Center State Building. And so it's a much smaller office than what they have now, but I think it's a lot more accommodating to the Marion Star. Obviously, print news has changed dramatically over the years with internet, and you can now get the Marion Star online. I know my wife reads the Marion Star online. That's the only way she gets her local news and information. And more people are doing that. So the print paper has changed incredibly over the past few years. So I think you're seeing that reflection in the Marion Star's front office and how they'll do business. So I'm excited about the Marion Star being on basically a main line through the city of Marion, State Street and Center Street. So they'll have more of a presence because their old building was kind of off Center Street, behind the overpass, the State Street overpass, if you will. It wasn't very visible, and now they're going to be much more visible than they have been in a long time. So the prospects are very interesting and exciting about not only the Starfish project for student housing, but Marion Star moving into the Center State Building. So you're seeing a lot of changes in downtown Marion, and I think you're going to continue to see further changes in downtown Marion. There has been talk about taking down some old buildings that are no longer having any useful life left in them. It would cost way too much to fix up these particular properties. So in order to make space for other needs and other purposes in our community, I think we're going to see some demolitions taking place in downtown Marion.
All right, thank you. I know that we are resurfacing some of the streets. Can you name some of the streets for me?
Well, I will tell you this. When it comes to street resurfacing, that is probably the #1 issue that people call the mayor's office about. Fixing a pothole, my street's in terrible shape, when are you going to pave my street? We typically, in a normal year, will spend anywhere, I'm going to say about $750,000 to resurface a street. And this year, in 2013, that project is going to be much smaller for various reasons. It's only going to be about $300,000. Now, I say that so the street resurfacing projects this year are very small. We're only going to do about 3 or 4, maybe 5 residential streets. And next year, in 2014, we're going to do a major street resurfacing project in our community where we're going to spend $2.4 million. And that's going to be one of the largest resurfacing projects that I've seen since I've been involved in municipal government in almost 15 years.
All right, thank you. And what about the sewer projects in Marion?
The sewer projects always continue. We do a major sewer replacement project every year in this community. We're under strict EPA guidelines to have to do those sewer projects. And I hope to get more into some of those infrastructure improvement projects when we get back from the break.
All right, thank you. And we'll be right back.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Haven't seen you around before. Are you new in the neighborhood?
Yeah. Haven't you heard about the new state law on yard waste bags?
No, I guess not.
Well, if yard waste is set out by the curb for pickup, state law requires residents to use a compostable bag, like me, or a large paper bag, or a hauler-provided cart. Plastic bags like you are now banned from curbside pickup.
Welcome back to Channel 18 with Marion City Schools. I'm Ian Soul, and I'm here with Mr. Mayor, and we are talking about public streets.
Well, we are. We're talking about public works projects in general. We were talking about sewer replacement projects, which the city does every year. We spend millions of dollars on a yearly basis to improve our city's sanitary and storm infrastructure. You know, Ian, most people don't understand sewers, and quite frankly, I didn't understand a whole lot about sewers when I became mayor either. You know, you think of the sanitary sewer is, well, frankly, where everything goes when you flush the toilet.
Right.
It has to go somewhere. And we have a wastewater treatment plant that we treat that material, and it's actually recycled. It's we give it to a farmer, and the farmer actually spreads the solids on the farm fields in the Marion community. So we're recycling here in Marion, even at the wastewater treatment plant. But on top of that, you also have storm sewer, and we have EPA regulations that we have to follow with our storm sewer as well. So we have certain ditches that are our storm drainage ditches, like the Kukwa ditch, the Goose Creek ditch. There are a number of other ditches that run. Actually, it looks like on a map they start in the city and then they run out through the county, and that's how we get rid of the storm water inside the city of Marion. So we're always doing those projects. But as I said before the break, it's the street resurfacing that are the biggest projects that most of the people that live in a neighborhood are concerned about. Merchant Avenue was a project that we started last year, and it was not only a street resurfacing, but we had to also fix the sewer on Merchant as well. That's all been completed, but we have to put the final layer of asphalt on Merchant Avenue. In fact, I just got a call yesterday from a resident who lives there, and they often don't know the schedules that we have to follow. We have a contractor that will come in this spring and do that last layer of asphalt on Merchant Street, but we have to wait for the asphalt plants to open up. Asphalt is not made year-round. They stop making it in the winter months because it's just too darn expensive to make asphalt in the winter. So the asphalt plant should be opening up probably any time now, last week of April, first week of May. So they'll come in and they'll pave that street here very soon. There's also a little bit of street on Prospect Street, South Prospect, another place where we had to fix the sewer before we could pave the street. It doesn't make any sense to repave a street, then go in and tear it up, and then fix the sewer. So we try and fix the sewers first, and then we come back and pave the street. So those are two small projects that are going to get done yet this year, and then we'll have some residential streets that will be paved this year. I know Wilson Avenue is on that street repaving project for 2013. That's the small project I was talking about. But 2014 is the big year. That's when you're going to see the most of Fairground Street will be repaved. All of Main Street, Jefferson Street, the remaining part of Vernon Heights Boulevard. If you notice, if you've been on the boulevard, we've paved all of it up to a point where it comes into Mount Vernon Avenue.
Right.
So we'll finish that part off next year when we do that $2.4 million paving project. And there is a long list of streets that we're going to do next year. And the reason we're doing it next year is because what we do is we take our street paving and we get it from different pots of money. We get grant money. We use gasoline tax money. Every time that you get your license renewed on your car or your driver's license, we get money from that as well. There's a $5 fee added on to that the city uses. And also we have what we call the Large City Fund from the Ohio Department of Transportation. And that is where the bulk of our money is going to come from for our 2014 paving project. And we have to jump through a lot of hoops when we use that ODOT money. That's why we had to put that $2.4 million paving project off until 2014, because we need ODOT's approval on doing those projects. They need to know exactly what that money is going to be spent on, what the bid specifications are on each one of those jobs. So that's a huge project, and I'm looking forward to 2014 and getting a lot of our main streets paved in the city of Marion.
Well, thank you. All right. Moving on to economic development. Who runs economic development for the city?
Well, the city many years ago partnered up with the county. I think it was prior to, I'm going to say 1993, the county had their own economic development person, and the city had their own economic development person. That didn't make a lot of sense because we were duplicating efforts. So in the early 90s, an organization called Can Do was created, and it was meant to be a private-public partnership where we used private money and public taxpayer dollars for this economic development organization. And Can Do is the organization that does the economic development for the entire city and county of Marion. So the city doesn't have its own anymore and the county doesn't. It's combined together. And the Can Do office is downtown Marion. Actually, it's in the same block as City Hall, the same side of the street. And they do all of the economic development for the city of Marion. And there is an executive director there. There is a board there. Today, things are a little bit different, though. It's about 90 to 95% taxpayer-funded economic development. The private donations weren't meant to last forever, and clearly they didn't last forever. So the taxpayers are footing the bill for economic development, and they do an array of things. For example, this Friday, I'm going to be meeting with the executives at Whirlpool with Craig Thompson, who's our economic development CEO, if you will, to talk about traffic signals out by Whirlpool. Now, that's not even in the city limits, but I can tell you this, Whirlpool is the biggest employer in our county, and it's important that we keep Whirlpool healthy, happy, and strong, and in our community. So as mayor, I'm willing to participate in anything that's going to help enhance the business and the business activities at Whirlpool. So economic development is a wide variety of things. It could be anything from recruiting and bringing in a new business. Primarily industry is their main focus. They help bring in U.S. Yachiyo, Marion Industries, Sakamura, ArcelorMittal, which is all out on Kellogg Parkway. The city helped build Kellogg Parkway some 14, 15 years ago, and those are 4 companies that have gone to the industrial park here in our community. Most of those companies I just mentioned are suppliers for Honda. And there's an area where I think we need to focus our attention in economic development in our community, and that's the Honda supplier. Honda is just down the road in Marysville, arguably the biggest employer in the region next to Whirlpool, and so we can have companies come to our community, make the pieces and parts for Honda, and then ship them down the road to Route 4 or anywhere else that there are Honda plants in the United States. But economic development is more about retention and expansion than it is anything else. Most of the economic development that takes place in any community is retain what you have and get those companies to expand on their already existing facilities that they have in their community.
All right, and do you think any more industry or any more companies will come to Marion in the near future?
I think we are always looking for industry. We recently, in the news media, NEX Logistics, which is a logistics company that will ship out parts to its customers, and Honda of America happens to be one of its biggest customers. They're going to be using an old Marion Power Shovel warehouse just off Unkefer Avenue. Now, that is good because they're using an already existing building, and whenever you can reuse something that already exists, that's a good thing as well. So that may only be about 15 to 25 jobs, but I'm telling you what, in this economy, you're not turning down 15 to 25 jobs any day of the week. That's good. We've also recruited a tool and die shop from Chicago to come to Marion. They're going to be located on East Mark Street down by Bungie, or the old Central Soya, if you're more familiar with that. So there's a tool and die shop coming to Marion. And before your time and before my time, but many of the viewers might remember that tool and die shops were a dime a dozen in Marion, Ohio, because we had the Marion Power Shovel, the Huber, Tecumseh, and they helped make pieces and parts for all of those major industries that Marion once had. It may be hard to believe, but there are more industrial jobs in Marion today in 2013 than there was 25, 30 years ago. And we don't often notice that because our biggest employers, Marion Power Shovel, Huber, Tecumseh, no longer exist in our community. But we've really replaced them with other manufacturing jobs, some of which I've mentioned on Kellogg Parkway. Then, of course, we've got the Airport Industrial Park, which is where the window company is, Silverline Windows. That was brought into our community about 10 or 11 years ago. And they can employ anywhere between 500 to 700 people out there at Silverline Windows.
All right, thank you. I'm excited for summer, and I bet you are. Speaking of summer, the Aquatic Center, when is it opening?
Well, this is our second season for the Aquatic Center, and it opens up, Memorial Day weekend, I believe the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. In fact, in our May show that we're going to do here, I'd like to bring in our aquatics director, Jeannie Brewer, to lay out some of the more detailed and specific items about the Aquatic Center. If you haven't been there, and have you been there, Ian?
I have, yeah.
You have been there. Well, good. And hopefully most of our viewers have been there as well. It's a beautiful facility. Yes, it costs a lot of money. I am well aware of that as mayor, believe me. But we have the facility now, and we have to support it. We have to make it grow and thrive. So I'm excited for it to open up. I just hope that this summer is as hot as it was last summer. Last summer had record temperatures. I don't know what it's going to be like this year, but I'm praying for hot weather once again. We had good crowds at the Aquatic Center last year, and that's what it takes to make that Aquatic Center a success. You know, who would have ever have thought a lazy river at a public pool in Marion, Ohio? And the racer slides that we have out there, and the kids' play area. Really, it's a mini water park right here in Marion, Ohio. And we're doing a lot of things to improve and enhance Lincoln Park. Lincoln Park is probably one of our bigger parks with a lot of activities out there. We recently relocated our skateboard park. Some of your viewers may remember about 10 years ago, in fact I just got on council about that time, where we used community development block grant money to put a skateboard park behind the rec center. Well, this community outgrew that skateboard park. So we were lucky enough that I had a private individual. He and his wife came to me one day and said, I've got $30,000. I'd like to donate it to a specific project. And I had that skateboard park on my mind. I pitched the idea to him about the skateboard park, and he thought it was a fabulous idea. So a private donor, okay, $30,000, as well as about $50,000 of community development block grant money were used to relocate our skateboard park into Lincoln Park. So you have the skateboard park in Lincoln Park, you'll have the aquatic center there, and I hope someday very soon that we'll be able to overhaul and redo all of the baseball diamonds in Lincoln Park. Right now they are run and supervised by Marion Baseball for Youth, but I think in the very near future you're going to see an overhaul of youth baseball in our community as well.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for watching. We will have a show next month, and we will have a guest, Janie Brewer, who is going to talk more about the Aquatic Center, and that will be on next episode. Thank you. Nice job.
You're a runaway train, buddy. Did you see your note?
What note?
In the break there, you have a break on your page.
Yeah!
Well, you went right past it.
I wasn't sure about the time.
Okay, that's my fault. No, I thought you would just add the commercials in, but I didn't even think about it.
I want you to take a break. We will add the commercials in.
So what do you want me to do?
So that was fine. That was fine.
You did great.
Oh, I'm afraid to look down at my own notes, to tell you the truth.
No, it was good.
Yeah.
I'm sweating.
So, you know where you want
I saw everybody's hands moving off to the
Yeah,
side.
it's like, yeah.
Okay, we must be close to the break, but I don't know when.
I completely skipped over it.